bar Arthur Johnson, who played in the very first ever Real Madrid game, and the famous Patrick O'Connell, who was Barca manager, it would be the first Irish international we've had at one of Spain's big three, or the first Irish player, really, or Irish kind of football figure, if you like. There's an excitement that obviously, given what Atletico Madrid have been for Irish people. And also potentially to kind of revitalise Doherty's career a bit. The move to Tottenham was initially good for him. He's had good moments under Antonio Conte, but he hasn't been a certain starter. Diego Simeone is looking for a right back. They failed in 2 bids for Marseille's Klaus. So it does make a lot of sense. Well, obviously, yeah, if you're an Irish fan, it's suddenly that's the profile of someone in the squad. Tottenham are now one of the biggest clubs in the world, but Atletico are obviously up there in 2 recent Champions League finals. There's a lot of debate about where Simeone is as a manager right now, how good he is compared to what he used to be, whether the game is passing by. I think they're all very fair debates. But one thing that can't be doubted is that he'll derive a huge focus out of defensive players, and he'll hone some of their defensive concentration. He's a rare kind of old-fashioned defensive coach in that sense. And from that element, we might see more from Doherty. But then the interesting thing is, the way he uses wing-backs, he might actually avail of some of Doherty's more attacking qualities. I think it's almost necessary for the level as well. If you actually stand back and look what the Premier League is, it is, as many people are now saying, it's a European Super League in all but name, really, because it's got more money than anyone. And what that translates into, as we're seeing in this window, is that it just but through the way these things are conditioned, it's basically the highest level for players, bar a few clubs like Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, taking away some individual players, but the majority of them are all in the Premier League. Now, what that does, it means it's a kind of a truly globalized league, which is for any individual country, and I suppose it's particularly the case with those close by, like Ireland or Wales or Scotland, it means they just can't get their players to as high a level in England as they would have done 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So now, it's almost that question of whether do they want to stay in England and try and be close to the Premier League, or you can potentially play at a slightly higher level abroad, or at least play in a kind of a top division or challenge for trophies at a club abroad. So I do think it is something they should be looking at. And you also have to see as well how many young English players have benefited from growing abroad, not least Jude Bellingham.